2 to 3 sentences max, telling me about what you've read about so far. You read the first 16 pages, okay? So just take a few minutes. I just want you to write me a summary of what's happened in those 16 pages. Okay, now underneath that, what I want you to write for me is a list of any nonfiction text features that you remember from 5th grade. Nonfiction text features. You didn't learn about nonfiction text features? Okay, that's okay too. Okay, if there are any that you remember. There are certain things that we find only in nonfiction texts. I'll give you an example. Caption is an example of a nonfiction text feature. What other nonfiction text features do you remember? Oh yeah, library. Okay, if you're not sure, this is a nonfiction text, so maybe skim through it. Okay, pencils down. It's okay if you don't have anything written. We're going to talk about it today. Okay? Pencils down? All right. So the reason why we're meeting today is we're going to talk about your novel's text structure. Okay, and I have this here. So authors write novels using different structures, okay? And here are the different examples of how they can write. This is basically how the author decides to organize the writing, okay? He or she might organize it by providing descriptions, okay? And we would see things like adjectives and different characteristics and examples, okay? The author might organize the text by comparing and contrasting. Maybe the first part of the text is how everything is the same, and contrasting would be how everything is different, okay? Perhaps the author will organize the text in sequential order, okay, or chronological order. Have you heard of that word before?
Yeah.
Chronological order, what does that mean?
It means to go in order from least to greatest, or go in order of the number of events that happen.
Okay, and chronology is the study of time. So chronological order would be things that happened in
Order.
but using time order. So can you think of an example of what would be time order?
Like a number line?
How like a number line?
Like, because it goes from the number, like the date, and like from
Okay, so
1960.
dates, years, right? Good. Or it could literally be time, minutes, hours, okay? So that's order and sequence. We can also have problem and solution. So first you're introduced to the problem, then you're told about the solution, or cause and effect, okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to use the nonfiction text features to help us figure out this text structure, okay? And we might make a prediction today and it might be wrong, okay? We might have to edit it once we continue to read the story. You've only read 16 pages, okay? And we're not even going to use what you read today. We're going to actually use the nonfiction text features. So I want you to open up to the table of contents, which is a nonfiction text feature, okay? So can someone share with me their summary of what you read for these first 16 pages? What happened?
First we learned about Japan bombing Alaska,
Okay.
and also invading it, and then we learned about this ship that had to go through the sea in order to do a lot of things to us, and we learned that they've tried to like harm us and stuff, and try to harm America and stuff, and in order for that we tried to stop them from hacking to codes and stuff. And we also learned about this, I forgot, but we also learned about this code that they used they punched holes in papers and key cards so they could be able to read, and sometimes it would get out of control and there would be too many codes, so they would actually feel like reading the code and it would be too hard for them.
Okay. And would you agree, well, we know that this is nonfiction, but why do we know this is nonfiction?
It's based on history.
What part of
happened in
history?
Of the war.
The Whisper Wars.
Specifically what war though?
Oh,
World War II.
World War II, okay? And we know that because who was America fighting at the time?
Japanese.
The Japanese, because what had just happened?
They bombed.
They bombed us in Pearl Harbor. Okay, good. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to look at the chapter titles in the table of contents. Based just on the chapter titles, I want you to make an inference about what the text structure might be. Give everybody a second to think. Any thoughts? What do you think, Tia?
I think that they did it in order, or I think they did it like number or time order and in different points of view.
Okay, so why do you think that they organized, so they is the author, so you want to say, I think the author organized the text in chronological order. Say that? Say it. Chronological.
Oh, chronological.
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 Okay, so in sequence order, okay, until you get used to the word. So why do you think it's in sequence order? Does anyone else agree? Okay, Makai, what do you think?
Because in history books, you put the right dates and times so they don't get confused between what happened.
Okay, but do we see dates and times on the table of contents here? Okay, so what evidence from the table of contents makes you think that it's organized in chronological order?
Of the words that the author chose.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Like, for example, the secret dungeon.
Okay.
We read that the secret dungeon is like where they hurt or threaten somebody.
Okay.
And that I think it's like in that order because it only says, first it says the invasion of the ghosts. And
Okay.
then it keeps going on of how it happened in history.
Okay, so first they're in the dungeon. Then someone invades. Then what's happening? Go ahead.
Then there's a storm.
Okay.
And then,
And then they what?
then they escape and burn or something.
Okay. But take a look at the last chapter, chapter 10. The prisoners. Does that make sense for chronological order? Why not?
Because here it says they escaped and here it says
How could we make that work? You're right. It says that they escape, but then they're prisoners again. So what could have happened?
They could have took the people that were escaped and prison to get dungeon. Took some Japanese.
Okay, so they could have re-imprisoned them. So it's possible that it is chronological order. Okay, I want to draw your attention then to more evidence. So I want you to turn to the first page of chapter 1, which is page 8. Okay, underneath the chapter title, what else do you see?
Dates.
Dates, okay? This is kind of like a subtitle, all right? So we have May 1942, okay? Now let's go to chapter 2, which starts on page 25. Keep May 1942 in your head. Okay, now we have what? June 1942. So far, it's going in order, right? All right, let's go to chapter 3. Okay, 46. June, now we're in July. Okay, 1942. Still in chronological order. Nassim, can you look at what page chapter 4 starts for us?
67.
67. Do you mind numbering this, please? All right, we went from July 1942 to June 1942. So guess what? The book is not structured in chronological order. Okay, we know that based on the evidence that we found in the subtitles. Okay, so let's go back to the table of contents. Any other ideas on how this might be structured? Do you think it's description? Is he just giving you vivid description of what happened? No. So I think we can cross that out. How about compare and contrast? Are there any chapters that are similar?
Yes.
Okay, like what?
Like how it says how we learned about the secret dungeon, how they had prisoners, and then it says about chapter 10 about the prisoners.
Okay, so how are those the same?
Because usually a dungeon is for holding prisoners.
Okay, good connection. So maybe the first chapter and the 10th chapter are similar. Okay, how about contrasting? Do we have any contrasting? What do you see?
I see that the ghost towns, the ghost towns and the,
Okay, how? How are those contrasting?
because usually ghost towns, like, they're probably in the ghost towns. They're probably all like dead. They're probably all like fighting or something, and they're probably trying to like fight their way back. And Dead Man Walking is probably them being dead or something.
Okay, so you're associating ghosts with people who are no longer living, right? A ghost town is actually what we use to describe a town that has nothing there, no humans there. Okay, all right. Be compare and contrast. Let's not rule that out. We know it's not in sequential order. How about problem and solution? Nassim, what do you think? Could it be problem and solution? Why?
The problem here really is the Japanese themselves. And by the end,
We have ghost towns and the prisoners. So how could that fit into a solution?
maybe
What would be logical? The prisoners could be who? Who's the problem? And so then who could be the prisoners? Perhaps. So we can't rule that out. What about cause and effect? That was the last one. Could this possibly be cause and effect? What do you think?
Yes, because the Japanese
Okay, perhaps. Is anyone else? Okay. So what was the cause? Okay, so because they put the warriors in the dungeon, what was the effect? Effect?
the effect is that the Japanese
So what's the effect of them being put in the dungeon?
The effect of being put in the dungeon is them also being tortured since they did it to us.
Okay. Do we see that maybe here? I'm not saying you're wrong, but what evidence could you use here from the text title to tell you that possibly that's happening? Go ahead.
In The Secret of the Dungeon, like Tiana said, she said that we learned about them torturing in the secret dungeon, and only one person would be allowed to go in there, and that I think is the admiral or something.
Okay, so I don't want to cut you off on this conversation because we're running out of time, but think about this too. Because they're in the dungeon, look at the other chapter titles. What else is happening as an effect of them being in the dungeon? Yes, they may be tortured, but look at the chapter titles. Nassim, I need you to look at the chapter titles.
the chapter Escape and Burn.
Okay, so what else is happening, do you think, maybe?
They can be trying to escape and set stuff on fire.
Okay, what else do you think?
They're the Japanese are others that are not known as prisoners are trying to attack because it says in chapter that's a surprise attack.
Okay, all right, so we have 3 possible text structures that this book can be organized by, and we're really not going to know until you really start reading the book, okay? But what did we use to help us make inferences about the text structure today?
The process, the table process, the big chapters.
Which is an example of well, we did use the subtitles. We used the subtitles, but subtitles and table of contents are examples of what?
Non-fiction text.
Non-fiction text features, okay? So you're gonna let me know. This could be problem solution, compare and contrast, or cause and effect, all right? Good, you can close your books. Good job today. You can leave these here. I'm gonna take a look at them.